Black daughter of billionaire couple was left off the guest list, but her dad made them regret it. The room buzzed with anticipation. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, and waiters floated by with trays of champagne. It was the social event of the year, an exclusive charity gala in Manhattan attended by titans of industry, celebrities, and political elites. But there was one name absent from the glossy, embossed invitations: Ariel Westwood. At 21, Ariel was the only daughter of Michael and Vanessa Westwood, tech moguls who had made their billions by building a global AI empire. Adopted at 6 months old from a small village in Ghana, Ariel had been raised in a life of unimaginable privilege. But privilege didn't shield her from the harsh whispers that often followed her in elite spaces. "She doesn't look like them," guests would say with a tight smile. "Must be the help's daughter." Ariel had always known she was different. Not because of her skin color. She wore it like a crown, but because, unlike others in her circles, she was kind. She volunteered at shelters, ran a scholarship fund for girls in Africa, and had recently chosen to study social work instead of business, which puzzled her family's inner circle. Her compassion was limitless. But tonight, that compassion had been snubbed. It was a chilly Friday evening when Ariel saw the post. A friend had tagged her in a story on Instagram, a glitzy photo of the gala's seating chart. Her name wasn't there. At first, she thought it was a mistake. Maybe her invitation got lost. But the truth was less accidental. The event's organizer, Claudia Layton, a high society doyenne known for her discerning taste, had personally curated the guest list. And she had left Ariel off. Word had it she felt Ariel's background didn't fit the evening's aesthetic. When Michael Westwood, Ariel's father, found out, he was livid. He was in Tokyo closing a billion-dollar merger when his assistant showed him the story. Michael, usually composed and ruthless in the boardroom, felt something deeper than anger. He felt shame, for being part of a world that still clung to such ignorance. And more than anything, he felt pain for his daughter. You see, Michael hadn't always been wealthy. He'd grown up in the Bronx, raised by a single mother who cleaned offices to feed him. He knew what it meant to be overlooked. That's why he had worked so hard, fought so fiercely, to ensure his daughter never would be. But here they were. And someone had made her feel less than, on purpose. Michael didn't yell. He didn't sue. He didn't demand apologies. He made a call. The next morning, social media lit up. The Westwood Foundation had pulled its $10 million donation from the gala's cause, a pediatric cancer research project. The headline read, "Westwoods withdraw support after discriminatory guest list leak." Within hours, sponsors pulled out, celebrities backed away, and Claudia Layton's PR team went into crisis mode. But Michael wasn't done. He issued a statement that shook the country. "My daughter is the soul of our family. Her compassion has touched more lives than any donation I've ever made. If she's not good enough for your table, then neither are we." But instead of letting the moment end in bitterness, Ariel had another idea. "Dad," she said gently, sitting with him in their sunlit kitchen the next day, "I don't want revenge. I want change." So, together, they planned something bold, something that would rewrite the story. 3 weeks later, Ariel hosted her own gala. It wasn't held in a 5-star hotel or a private club. It was held at the Bronx Community Arts Center, the same place Michael grew up taking free computer classes as a boy. The guest list was different too. Instead of CEOs and billionaires, she invited foster kids, public school teachers, community leaders, and families affected by pediatric cancer, the very cause that had been lost in the drama. There were no black tie gowns, no red carpets. But there was laughter, warmth, music, and hope. When Ariel walked onto the makeshift stage in a simple blue dress, her voice steady and kind, the room fell silent. "I wasn't invited to the party," she said, smiling softly, "but maybe that's because I was meant to host a better one." Her words rippled through the audience, through hearts, and across the nation. The story went viral. The party with a purpose, they called it. News anchors choked up as they shared clips of Ariel dancing with children battling cancer, of her hugging nurses, of her surprising a janitor with a college scholarship for his daughter. Donations poured in, not from the elite, but from everyday people inspired by Ariel's spirit. In just 2 weeks, she raised over $18 million, all of it going toward pediatric cancer research and community education. Then came the letters. A nurse from Alabama wrote, "My daughter is black and adopted too. You made her feel seen." A teacher in Chicago said, "You reminded me why I started this job." Even Claudia Layton, disgraced and publicly humiliated, sent a handwritten note. "I was wrong. You showed us what grace looks like. Thank you." But the most touching moment came quietly, one evening, when Michael knocked on Ariel's door. She was in her room, working on her next project, a mentorship network for girls of color in tech. He stood in the doorway for a long moment before speaking. "I've built towers," he said, voice rough with emotion, "but you built a bridge." Ariel looked up, eyes shining. "You gave me the foundation, Dad. I just walked across it." That night, the billionaire cried, not from regret, but from pride. The story of Ariel Westwood spread far and wide, not because of her last name, or her wealth, but because of her heart. She taught a world obsessed with status that kindness is the highest currency. That being left off the list doesn't mean you don't belong. Sometimes, it means you're meant to lead. And that's exactly what she did. She led with love. She inspired with humility. And in doing so, she rewrote what power really looks like. So the next time you feel invisible, overlooked, or cast aside, remember Ariel. Remember that the tables we're excluded from are not always the ones worth sitting at. Sometimes, the world needs you to build your own. And when you do, don't just make room for yourself. Make room for everyone. Because the best parties, the ones that change the world, aren't defined by who's invited, but by who's included.